Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on earth about 500 years back. He appeared in a place called Mayapur on the banks of Ganges in today's West Bengal. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a very special mission in life. He wanted to teach the importance of Krishna Bhakti. He wanted to teach the process of Krishna Bhakti, especially for this age. And he wanted to develop the principles, the science of Krishna Bhakti as it is described in the Vedic literatures. And he wanted to teach the process of bhakti by chanting the holy names of the Lord. Even at the time of his birth, the circumstances were such that it indicated his mission, the purpose of his appearance in this world. He was born in the evening, and at that time there was lunar eclipse all over India. And it was the practice of the people in India at the time of lunar eclipse to go have a dip in a holy river and chant the Vedic mantras for purification. So even in that place where Sri Chaitanya was born in Mayapur, in Navadvip, hundreds and thousands of people of Navadvip and Mayapur, they were all taking bath in the Ganges, chanting the Vedic mantras. And all over the subcontinent of India, people were taking bath in the holy rivers and chanting the Vedic mantra, and it was at that time Sri Chaitanya was born. In this way, in the act of his birth and in the act of his advent into this world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heralded the message of Sankirtana, Harinama Sankirtana, for which he appeared in this planet. Later on, when Sri Chaitanya grew up into a small baby, his mother and the neighboring women found out that when this child is crying, when the baby is crying, and they were trying different methods to pacify the baby would not be pacified till all the neighboring women started chanting the names of Krishna. So they soon figured out there was a kind of a pattern. If this baby cries, we should all get together and chant the names of Krishna, and the baby will stop crying. In order to test this theory, they sometimes would provoke the child by pinching him, and the baby would start crying, and then they would start chanting Krishna's name, and he would become pacified. So even in simple, innocent acts like this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was pointing out the purpose, the mission of his life. Later, he became well versed as a scholar in Sanskrit, in Vyakaran, Tarka, Nyaya. He became expert in Sanskrit grammar, logic and rhetoric. He was known as Nimai Pandit in the town. And at a certain point in life, when his father passed away, he went to Gaya to perform the rites on the occasion of his father's passing away. In Gaya, he met a great devotee, Ishwarapuri, who initiated him. And that meeting of Nimai Pandit with Ishwarapuri was a turning point. From that point onwards, Nimai Pandit would show symptoms of ecstasy simply at the utterance of Krishna's name. He would be thrown into raptures of ecstasy on hearing Krishna Nama, Harinama. And he would travel all around Navadvip and getting people to join him in singing and chanting the names of Hari. And all the people in that town joined him, and they would all walk through the streets of Navadvip, playing on the drums and playing thala and chanting the names of Hari and Krishna, singing and dancing. And at a certain point in life, at about when he was 24 years, he took sannyas. He had a young, beautiful wife and an old, loving and affectionate mother. He left all these very pleasant circumstances in his family and took sannyas simply to further spread the message of Krishna Bhakti to the people. After he took sannyas, he became known as Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and he traveled to Jagannath Puri, and he stayed for the rest of the 24 years in Jagannath Puri. He also undertook a journey to the different places in South India, which lasted for about 2 years. He came down from Jagannath Puri, went to Rajmandri, further came down to Tirupati, then further he came to Srirangam, then further down to Rameshwaram, and then to Kanyakumari. Then he traversed northwards, coming to Tiruvattar, Tiruvananthapuram, Varkala, Guruvayur, and came all the way up to Udupi, and then to Pandharpur, and then he went back to Jagannath Puri. Wherever he traveled in South India, from village to village, he got people to chant the names of Hari and Krishna. When he met scholarly Brahmanas, he had discussions with them, impressing on them the importance of Krishna Bhakti and that how everyone should participate in the chanting of the holy names and surrender to Krishna. Later on, Sri Chaitanya undertook a journey to Benares, and from there to Vrindavan, the place most dear to the devotees of Krishna. And after that, he returned to Jagannath Puri, and he stayed in Jagannath Puri till his 48th year. During his last years, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu displayed symptoms of extreme ecstasy of Krishna Bhakti. He lived in thought and remembrance of Krishna and chanting the names of Krishna, hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam. He had no idea whether it was day or night. He forgot his hunger or thirst. He was simply in deep ecstasy, remembering Krishna. He would see the ocean in Jagannath Puri, and seeing that water and the river flowing to Jagannath, to the ocean, that would remind him of Yamuna, and that would throw him into ecstasy. Calling out for Krishna's name, he would jump into the ocean. There was an occasion when a fisherman had thrown his net and was trying to catch fishes as his daily routine. And Sri Chaitanya was in his kutir in a place called Gambhira, where he stayed. And there were his close associates watching over him, because he was in so much in ecstasy, he was not at all aware, had no external consciousness of the world and the circumstances around him. One night, there was a devotee who was supposed to guard him. He fell asleep, and Sri Chaitanya, lost in ecstasy, calling out Krishna's name, he started walking out in the night. And he saw the ocean in the moonlit night, and mistaking that ocean on a moonlit night to be the Sharad Purnima day, the day on which Krishna had performed the rasa dance with the gopis, calling out for Krishna, he fell into the ocean. The next morning, the fishermen, they were capturing, had thrown their nets and they were trying to catch the fishes. And this particular fisherman, he pulled his net and he thought that he had caught a huge fish because it was so heavy. And he started pulling the net. And as he started pulling the net, surprisingly, Krishna's name were coming out of his mouth. And he was calling out, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And he was pulling the net. All the other fishermen around him, they were surprised. Why are you chanting Krishna's name? I've never seen you do this all for so many years. And he said, I don't know why. And as I'm pulling the net, I'm simply calling out Krishna's name. And he pulled and pulled and pulled, and he found it was Sri Chaitanya who was caught in the net. He was unconscious. And somehow he was caught in the net and he was brought to safety. And the other fishermen who tried to help him release the net and hold on to the net and bring him out to safety, even they also started chanting Krishna's name. And then Sri Chaitanya came to external consciousness and he was safe. So in this way, Sri Chaitanya was absorbed in a very deep ecstasy during his last days. And at the age of 48, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that everyone should practice bhakti to Krishna, and the process for attaining bhakti is by chanting the holy names of Krishna and Hari. It is said in the Vedic literatures that there are different methods recommended for different ages. In Satya Yuga, the process recommended was dhyana. People could go to a solitary place like a forest or the Himalayas and perform meditation for hundreds of years. People lived for long time and they could do this kind of meditation because their minds were not very disturbed. In Treta Yuga, in Dwapar Yuga, in different yugas, different methods are recommended. Performing yajna, performing deity worship. But for Kali Yuga, knowing the nature of people, the mindset, the mental makeup of the people of Kali Yuga, number one, they are very short-lived. Number two, they are not interested in spiritual life. And they are very disturbed about meeting the necessities of life. Under these circumstances, a different method is recommended in the Vedic literatures. And that method is to chant the holy names of Krishna, to chant the holy names of Hari. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled the length and breadth of India, and he was urging people to to the process of chanting Krishna's name to attain bhakti, he quoted several verses from the Vedic literatures. One of them, from the Burhan Naradiya Purana, he would often quote, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Namaiva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyaiva, Nastyaiva, Nastyaiva Gatiranyata. This verse states that it is only the chanting of Hari's name, chanting of Hari's name, and chanting of Hari's name, and no other method in Kali Yuga will work. There is another verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted often from Kali Santarana Upanishad. This is an Upanishad which specifically talks about the contaminations in Kali Yuga and how one should counteract that. There is a verse in this Upanishad which states, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Iti Shodashakam Namna Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, Natha Paratara Upayaha Sarva Vedeshu Drushyate. This verse gives the Hare Krishna mantra and says, Iti Shodashakam Namnam. These 16 words, Hare Krishna, these 16 words of the Hare Krishna mantra are especially meant to counteract the contaminations of Kali Yuga. Iti Shodashakam Namnam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam Natha Parataropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drushyate. There is no better method in all of the Vedic literatures. Like this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to scholars, kings, kingsmen, and common people, all kinds of people, urging them to take up the chanting of the holy names of Krishna as the means for attaining Krishna bhakti and self-realization and God realization. It is not that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not meet with opposition. You must know, 500 years back when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was propagating this bhakti, Krishna bhakti, India was under the grip of a rigid caste system. The Brahmanas had monopolized that all spirituality and all religious practices and benefits were only meant for their exclusive section, and it was not available for the other sections in the society. Especially there were segments of society who were completely excluded from any religious participation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke and worked against these barriers of the caste system. He welcomed people from all segments of the society to participate in chanting, and he encouraged that any one of the people, all kinds of people, can achieve that higher states of spiritual realization by chanting the holy names of Krishna and Hari. Some of the people who opposed him most were the caste-conscious Brahmanas. They found that Sri Chaitanya and his teachings were liberalizing what they had considered, kept it exclusive for themselves. And there were many Brahmanas who opposed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went up to the Mughal ruler. India was under the rule of the Mughals 500 years back. And went up to the Mughal ruler and complained to him that Sri Chaitanya has been messing up with their religion and publicly chanting the names of Krishna, and that should be opposed. In fact, these caste Brahmanas went and influenced the Qazi. At that time, he was known as Chand Qazi, and Chand Qazi became influenced by these Brahmanas' complaints, and he passed a rule that chanting of Krishna's name and Hari's name in public is banned. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about it, he told his followers to openly disobey the order of Chand Qazi. Chand Qazi was very upset. He sent his policemen, and they went all around the town of Navadvip, And when they found these devotees were chanting the names of Hari, he got them arrested, and they would be chanting with mrudanga. He had these mrudanga. He broke, those constables broke the mrudangas and arrested the followers of Sri Chaitanya. When Sri Chaitanya heard this, he gave a call to all his followers and said, let's march in protest to the house of Chandkazi. And Sri Chaitanya's biographers describe that hundreds and thousands of people gathered and they marched in civil disobedience to the house of Chandkazi, led by Sri Chaitanya. They were all singing the names of Krishna. They were chanting and they were dancing, playing mrudangas, holding torches because it was in the night. And when Chandkazi saw from a distance, there is a huge ocean of people and they were coming towards his house, he began to panic. But then all the people who had assembled, led by Sri Chaitanya, that their tempers were flying, but Sri Chaitanya calmed them and told them to maintain peace. And then when they reached the house of Chandkazi, Sri Chaitanya alone walked up and knocked on the doors, and Chandkazi came out. And he had a discussion with him. And the sweet words, the attractive personality of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the words he spoke moved the heart of Chandkazi. And Chandkazi promised Sri Chaitanya that he is going to lift the ban and give an order that neither him nor any of his successors shall ever interfere with the chanting of the holy names of Hari in public. So like this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had many such encounters where the caste brahmanas of the rigid Hindu society opposed his liberally chanting the holy names of Krishna and allowing all segments of the society to participate in spiritual development and spiritual elevation. Despite all this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu propagated the holy name of Hari, and he also foretold there will be a time when the whole world will take to the chanting of Krishna's name. He said, Prithvite ache yatanagaradi gram sarvatra pracharhai bemorana. This is a verse in Bengali recorded by his biographers who say that there will be a time when in every town and village of the world the holy names of Krishna and the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be known. In fact, when after Sri Chaitanya's time, there were many successive generations of followers of Sri Chaitanya who always wondered what this verse, Prithvite acheyato nagaradi gram sarvatra prachar hoi bemoranam, what does that Prithvite mean? Because originally in Bengali, Prithvite means all over the world. But they had no idea how will Chaitanya's message, Krishna's names be spread all over the world. They thought that here Prithvite simply means all over West Bengal and maybe a few more states around that like Orissa and so on. But it was Srila Prabhupada who appeared 500 years after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. That is when Srila Prabhupada took the message of Krishna consciousness. He took the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went all over the world. In those 10 short years that Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, he traveled around the world 14 times and established 108 Krishna temples where Chaitanya's message of Nama Sankirtana and worship of Krishna and surrendering to Krishna was being practiced by people from all over the world. Those prophetic words recorded by the biographers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prithvite acheyato nagaradi gram sarvatra prachar hai bemoranam, had come to fulfillment. Hare Krishna. It's interesting to note the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is foretold in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There is a verse in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam which says, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayair Yajantihi Sumedasaha. It says that Sri Chaitanya will appear and he will be Krishna Varnam. He will be constantly describing Krishna. Krishna Varnam. Varnanam means to glorify or to describe. And it also says Krishna Varnam Tvisha Akrishnam. But his luster, the bodily hue will be Akrishna, will not be black, will be golden. Sri Chaitanya was also known in his younger days as Gauranga, Gaurahari, because he had a golden complexion. He had a body which was effulgent. And so people who saw could see that there was a kind of a golden hue around him. So he was also known as Gauranga or Gaurahari. So Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam. And it is said that he will always be his Sangha. He will be surrounded by his associates who are Parshada, who are all very, very elevated souls who have descended from the spiritual world. Sangopangastra Parshadam. And he will perform a kind of a yagna. Yagnair Sankirtana Prayair. He will perform a yagna called Sankirtana, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would always perform Harinama Sankirtana, which is also considered to be a yagna, a kind of a sacrifice. And then it says, Yajantihi Sumedasaha. Intelligent people will recognize this appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they will recognize him, they will worship him, they will take him seriously. So like this, Sri Chaitanya's very appearance is foretold in the Vedic literatures. Like that, there are many other places also in the Mahabharata and Agni Purana and several other Vedic literatures also foretell Sri Chaitanya's special appearance. One of the important things that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught, something very special. And he taught all this on the basis of Vedic literatures, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam. In his teachings, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, there are two stages of the development of bhakti. The first stage is called sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti means when a sadhaka is not yet in the stage of pure bhakti on a very elevated stage, he is not very spiritually mature, but he is still growing, he is still evolving. And at that time, all the bhakti that he does is simply according to the rules and regulations and certain restrictions and prescriptions given in the Vedas. He rises early in the morning. He chants mantras, the holy names of Krishna, some number of times under regulation. This is called raga. This is called sadhana bhakti. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches that when one does sadhana bhakti strictly with determination, according to the rules and regulations that are given, then one's bhakti gradually evolves and matures and comes to a stage what is known as raganuga bhakti. Srila Prabhupada, who described these teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, translates sadhana bhakti as regulated devotion. It is regulated by certain rules and regulations. And then when one matures and comes to the stage of Raganuga Bhakti, Srila Prabhupada translates that as spontaneous devotion. In the stage of Raganuga, one is drawn to Krishna, one is attracted to Krishna. And it is not that the rules that are an impetus or driving somebody to practice bhakti, but one has awakened his bhakti in his heart, so much so that he is drawn to Krishna, he is irresistibly attracted to Krishna. That is the stage which is called Raganuga Bhakti. The Vedic literatures talk about it. In fact, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that Raganuga Bhakti evolves further and further, and in its most evolved state, it is called Prema Bhakti. In which case, a person becomes a lover of Krishna. And when he is a lover of Krishna, he simply can't take his mind off Krishna. He's constantly thinking about Krishna. He is immersed in that consciousness of Krishna. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Krishna prema nitya siddha sadhya kabunai, shravanadi shuddha chitta koraya udai. And what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu points out is that this Krishna prema, that prema bhakti, when one is in rapture, one is in ecstasy with Krishna, that is the natural perfection state of every living entity. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings is that we as spirit soul, we are constantly looking for perfection. We want to be better today than we were yesterday. A rich man, a man who has got a mindset to become rich, he wants to be richer today than he was yesterday. Somebody who is in the pursuit of knowledge wants to be more knowledgeable today than he was yesterday. Somebody who is in pursuit of power wants to be more powerful today than he was yesterday. So people, according to their conditioning, according to the training, and according to the exposure they have got, they are all looking for perfection. They want to attain that perfection day after day. But actually we know all of these material pursuits and the perfection in those material pursuits will actually not satisfy a living entity, and all of them are ultimately temporary. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches that the highest perfection that every living entity can achieve, and that is the natural perfection of every living entity, is to come to the stage of Krishna Prema. In other words, we have to come to that level where we are in love with Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that love of Krishna is the natural state of every living entity. It is Nitya Siddha. It is the eternal perfection of every jiva. Another thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says is that this Krishna Prema Nitya Siddha Sadhya Kabunai. Please don't think that this Krishna Prema is something that has to be introduced into the heart of a living entity. No, he says it is not introduced from outside. It is already there. It is the natural condition of the living entity. Right now it is covered up. So it is not something, just like, say, for instance, there is a baby crawling. You hold the baby by its hand and help the baby to walk a little bit. And in a few days, a little bit of practice, the baby starts walking. Because the ability to walk is already there in the baby. It just requires a little hand holding and a little bit of training. In the same way, the jiva already has Krishna Prema, because we are all part and parcel of Krishna. And that's our original nature. But we have become vismrutha. We have become forgetful of that relationship and that loving relationship we have with Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Krishna prema nitya siddha sadhya kabunai. It is not something to be attained from outside. He says, Shravanadi shuddha chitta koraya udai. Shravanadi means it is referring to another verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is described the Navavidha Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Pada Sevanam, Atma Nivedanam. These are called ninefold Navavidha Bhakti. He's actually referring to that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta. By doing ninefold devotional service, beginning with hearing about Krishna, Shravanam, Shuddha Chitta, our consciousness becomes purified. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Koraya Udai. And please note the beautiful word that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, that when we do Shravanadi, our consciousness becomes purified, and Koraya Udaya. Udaya is used in the sense of like a sun rising. Just like it is not that in the night there is no sun, sun is there somewhere. But in course of time, when day breaks, the sun rises. In the same way, Krishna Prema is already there. By this practice of sadhana bhakti, that Krishna Prema rises in the heart, Udaya. So this is how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented that we are all originally pure lovers of Krishna, and we should come to that stage of loving Krishna. Imagine every moment we are absorbed in that kind of an ecstatic feeling for Krishna. That, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, is the normal and natural and healthy condition of the living entity. Forgetting that, we are lost in this material world, suffering one kind of another, misery after another in our material pursuits. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invites everyone, because this is a condition of the living entity. It is nothing to do with the belief of a certain religion or a certain sect or any such thing. It is the natural condition of every living entity to become a lover of Krishna. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invites everyone to come to that plane of becoming a lover of Krishna. Hare Krishna. What was the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been very succinctly explained by one of his followers several generations later, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura. He has captured what is the mission, what is the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Thanaya. The first message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that the most worshipable person is Vrajesha Tanaya, the son of Nanda Maharaj, who is Krishna. He is Aradhya Bhagavan. Everyone should worship Krishna. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanaya Tadhama Vrindavanam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says that as much as Krishna is worshipable, his land, his abode, the place where Krishna appeared, the place where Krishna performed his leelas, called Vrindavana, is also equally worshipable. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanaya Tadhama Vrindavanam. And then, what is the kind of worship that one should do? For that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught, Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Yakalpitha. The kind of Upasana, Yakalpitha, which was conceived by whom? By Vrajavadhu Vargena. Vrajavadhu means damsels of Vraja or Vrindavan. That is the gopis headed by Srimati Radharani. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Yakalpitha. That Upasana that Vrajavadhus were doing, That kind of upasana was most attractive to Krishna. Ramya kachit. It was most enchanting to Krishna. So the method of worship of the gopis is the highest kind of worship of Krishna. Now, Krishna has to be worshipped, so also his land Vrindavana, and the method of worship was the method that was followed by the gopis of Vrindavan, who was totally surrendered to Krishna. And for developing all of this philosophy, you need a certain basis. And that basis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, is Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam. This Srimad Bhagavatam, which is an important literature, and that gives the basis for the development of bhakti. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, Srimad Bhagavatam is the most important Vedic literature. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Prema Pumartho Mahan. Generally, in the Vedic culture, there are what is known as Purushartha, Chatur Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no, these four are not the most important Purusharthas. He says, Prema Pumartho Mahan. That Krishna Prema, that is the highest accomplishment. That is the highest achievement in the human society. So these were Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam. This is the verdict, this is the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanaya Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Ya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Prema Pumartho Mahan. This was the message, the sublime message that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach in this world. Hare Krishna.